Hi, welcome for our RTL online training sessions. Here, one of the important question we are going to discuss, which is related for procurement module. This question generally they used to ask in the interviews as well as in the certification also. When we are doing some procurement certification in Oracle Fusion Cloud, they used to ask, what is the difference between prospective and spend authorized suppliers? Whenever we are working with the suppliers, whenever we try to create a supplier, we will be having two different types of suppliers. One is prospective, another one is spend authorized suppliers. The answers the system generally when we go for certification, they will provide four options. We are supposed to choose which one is better. So when I was doing last week certification for supplier qualification management, I got this answers. So selection process. Prospective suppliers can participate in sourcing and ASN document sending activities only, whereas spend authorized suppliers can participate in all procure to pay activities. That is A. B. Prospective suppliers are limited to sourcing only, sourcing and qualification activities, whereas spend authorized suppliers are limited to purchase orders and agreements. When it comes for prospective suppliers are limited to purchase orders, whereas both purchase order and agreements can be created for spend authorized suppliers. And the last option they have given, prospective suppliers are suggested by internal users, whereas spend authorized suppliers are registered externally. So these four options as given, and they have asked us select the best correct answer. That's what their expectation here. Okay. So here, if we talk about the first one, prospective suppliers can participate in sourcing and ASN. This is not possible. In ASN means advanced shipment notice. When the ASN document comes into the picture, ASN document will comes after we send the purchase order to the supplier. Then supplier will send the ASN note to our organization before he supply the goods to our inventory, right? So there is no chance that because prospective suppliers we can go for participate only in sourcing and qualification activities here, whereas spend authorized suppliers of course they can participate in procure to pay cycle, but the first one is wrong here because there is no question of prospective supplier can send the ASN document. The second one is prospective suppliers are limited to sourcing and qualification activities, whereas spend authorized suppliers are limited to purchase orders and agreement. So whenever we go for the second one is the right. So prospective suppliers are limited for sourcing and qualification activities. When it comes for spend authorized, you can go for purchase orders and having agreements. And we can obviously when you are purchasing, you can raise the requisition, RFQ, and quotations. And the prospective suppliers are limited to purchase orders. This is 100% wrong because you cannot raise the order to prospective supplier. And prospective suppliers are suggested by internal users, nothing but our employees. And spend authorized suppliers are registered externally. Generally, we can go for two types of supplier registration. One is internal registration, another one is a external registration. But this statement is wrong. It's not like internal users suggested by is nothing but prospective. External registration is nothing but spend authorized is not correct. So the second one is correct. It's as simple as if they ask us in the interviews or anywhere like what is difference between prospective supplier and spend authorized supplier. For prospective supplier, we can go for involve in the qualification as well as the RFQ and quotations, means negotiation documents can be prepared. But when it comes for spend authorized supplier, we can also raise the purchase orders and we can have agreements and we can go for purchase the goods from supplier and receive the goods from supplier. Let me show you where do we create where do we specify this supplier option. Whenever we are creating the supplier, make sure that you have the role called supplier manager, and you must be a buyer in case if you want to go for create supplier site. This user does not have the access to create supplier, and let me add the role. Users. The current user is user. Let's go to this user. Let me go for update. Add the role to the user called supplier manager. If we want to create supplier, just this role is sufficient. Let me cross check the role has been assigned or not. We can go for create supplier. But if you want to go with the supplier site, you must be a buyer. If you are not a buyer, you cannot create supplier site. See, whenever we try to create a supplier here, it is asking supplier name and business relationship. This is what we have discussed just now. Prospective supplier and spend authorized supplier. Generally in the organizations, generally if the business scenarios, the like big companies, what they do is suppliers will apply for their vendorship. So when there are some small companies who are ready to supply the goods or service to the organizations, what they do is they will apply for vendorship. So they have to specify their company organization, certifications, licenses, employee headcount, financial stability. These all things comes in supplier qualification management module. So there the supplier will go for apply, and then once it becomes as approved, then supplier will be qualified, then we'll make it as a spend authorized supplier. So this is the option where we will go for choose the supplier is a prospective supplier or spend authorized supplier. Here it is. Thank you.